KANKWASO writes Buhari seeks urgent action to stop Kano from becoming epicenter of COVID-19 in Africa. Former governor of Kano State, Senator Rabiu Musa KANKWASO, has written a letter to President Muhammadu Buhari on the spike in the number of unexplained deaths in Kano and called on the president to urgently intervene before the state becomes the epicenter of COVID-19 on the continent. In the 4-page letter addressed to the president, the former governor warned that with the population of Kano, if the situation was not handled properly and urgently, Kano would become the epicenter of the COVID-19 pandemic in Africa. Kano is the most populous state in the country, and Kano is one of the biggest in Africa. Experts have expressed concern that if the Kano situation is not handled professionally, sincerely, efficiently, and competently, will have the tendency of becoming the epicenter of this disease in Africa in a matter of months. Every sincere leader should be concerned about this. Everything that ought to have been in place, from advocacy and awareness campaign to sanitize the public to the provision of support, materials, medical and emotional to the citizens, is conspicuously absent in Kano, he warned. Listing 5 reasons for writing the letter, KANKWASO said, "Mr. President, I feel obliged to write this letter to you for 5 reasons. One is the very scary rise in the number of people that are mysteriously dying in Kano every day since the commencement of the fight against COVID-19 and the eventual lockdown of the state. 2 is the uncoordinated and unprofessional manner in which the fight against the disease in Kano State is being waged and the attendant and unprecedented mistrust of the government by the governed. 3 is the near absence of cooperation and coordination between the state and the federal government on the COVID-19 response. 4 is the frightening reality of the tendency of the present health emergency, which has already placed unbearable financial burden on both the citizen and the nation, to metamorphose into a security emergency. And 5 is to offer some suggestion in the overall interest of the good people of Kano State and the success of the national effort against COVID-19 pandemic. Permit me, Mr. President, to draw your attention to the spike in mystery deaths among the aged population in Kano State in the last couple of weeks. Hundreds of funerals have been recorded in all the cemeteries of the 8 metropolitan local governments alone. Looking at the pattern elsewhere in the world where senior citizens with pre-existing conditions were the main fatalities of the novel coronavirus, we are concerned that the inability to conduct tests in the state to determine the status of these senior citizens might be responsible for the deaths. We are even more concerned that if sincere and efficient machineries is not urgently put in place to understand and mitigate against this, more lives of innocent citizens will be lost. Noting that the state has practically no COVID-19 response committee, he said, what was hitherto working as a COVID-19 committee was a contraption of cronies that are both unqualified and incompetent. He said the committee, which kowtowed to the whims of politicians without any regards to professional healthcare consideration, technically disbanded itself when majority of the members were tested positive for COVID-19. KANKWASO said since the announcement of the positive test results of the committee members, no test had been conducted in the entire state. This is very frightening as neither asymptomatic nor active cases are being identified and isolated. As such, carriers of this dreaded virus are all about and spreading it and causing untimely deaths of especially our senior citizens, he said. According to him, the stoppage of the tests, coupled with series of revelations from within the isolation center in Kano, together with the state persistence in asking for financial assistance from the central government, has deepened the already existing mistrust of the government by the governed. This lack of trust seriously jeopardizes the battle against coronavirus, especially if it were to be led by the state. KANKWASO said that in times of crisis such as this, a robust and unifying leadership that will assure the citizens that it understands and shares its concerns was needed. He, however, noted that it was unfortunate that the state government was even denying that there was an unusual surge in the number of deaths in the state, noting that the lack of trust seriously jeopardizes the battle against coronavirus, especially if it were to be led by the state. The former governor said the state government had also failed to provide the required leadership needed at a critical time like this. He accused the state government of engaging a tug of war with the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, the federal agency vested with the responsibilities of coordinating the fight against the disease right from the time the index case was recorded in the state. This is very counterproductive to the people of the state and a serious impediment to the success of the nation in the fight against the disease, especially given that the fact, as today, the NCDC COVID-19 test centers at the Aminu Kano Teaching Hospital, AKTH, has closed down due to lack of reagents. Suggesting the way forward, KANKWASO called on the federal government to take over the rapid response on coronavirus in Kano because the state government had failed to provide required leadership needed at this time. He also demanded that the state should be compelled to constitute a proper task force on COVID-19 based on professionalism and competence. He advised that the task force should designate trained medical personnel in all cemeteries across the state that will collect records of all deaths, while another team of medical professionals follow up with inquiry of the cause of death. Furthermore, those that attended to the sick and those prepared the dead body for burial should also be identified, isolated, and contacted, traced for testing, he added. KANKWASO said that since it was undeniable that there was a spike in the number of deaths, the state government and the citizens should treat and consider all deaths as if it were caused by the coronavirus. Therefore, all protocols, as advised by medical experts, be observed whenever death occurs, he advised. The former governor also called for at least additional 5 test centers and 10 samples collection centers in the state. He also called for an independent federal government team of experts to investigate the rise in cases of death in the elderly population across the state. In the issue of palliatives, KANKWASO advised that such should be generous and general, as the virus did not belong to any political party, just as hunger and poverty were not partisan. So my people, that's the news reaching us. We all know the former Kano State Governor, Mr. Rabiu Musa KANKWASO. He has written a letter to the government, to Buhari, the presidency, with a few issues, with not a few issues, most of the issues happening in Kano State at the moment. We know that a whole lot of deaths were recorded in Kano State mysteriously, and nobody still up till now. Even the government was denying the fact that the deaths didn't happen in one day, but happened over a week. But which we know that a mysterious death like this in Kano State, one of the most populous states in Nigeria, with such death, we already can insinuate what the deaths are. And the most unfortunate thing there is that the NCDC center in Kano is not functional. It's actually dysfunctional at the moment. And we saw the news few days ago that went around the social media as well about a woman calling from Abuja that lost her son-in-law in Kano just because due to the coronavirus pandemic. You see, Mr. KANKWASO, a former Kano State governor, has written a letter to Mr. Buhari. One of the things he highlighted is that he wants the government to take a rapid response on this coronavirus in Kano State. And also, it says the government has failed to provide required leadership needed at this time. Yes, we could say that because right now the governor of the state has not done anything spectacular to see that there are test centers in Kano and there are treatment centers as well. You know, there's been too much case coming from Kano without anything being done. No sort of treatment centers, nothing in Kano at the moment. And Kano is one of Nigeria's most populous states. It's just appalling. It's unbelievable. You know, Mr. KANKWASO has said the government has failed in his leadership at this point in time, and I can agree to that. At this point in time, the government of Kano has failed because it's over 3, 4, 5 months into this pandemic. It's called COVID-19. It all started in China in December 2019. This is the end of April 2020. So we can see how much long ago this pandemic has been ravaging the world. You see, and thirdly, he also he demands proper state task force. We know that there is a presidential task force to COVID-19, but KANKWASO is calling out for a state task force as well for COVID-19 based on professionalism and competence. You see, so that's what he's calling for as well. And also he calls for additional test centers and sample collection centers in Kano. I think at this point in time, Mr. KANKWASO is right regarding what he has said to the federal government. That's a well-robust letter stating everything that's been happening in Kano State. We quite understand that this guy is not in the government anymore, but obviously he's been there before. He knows how to handle issues like this, and he's written to the federal government as regards the issues happening in Kano State. So my people, that's the news reaching us. One thing we would like to say, please do leave your comment. Let us comment on this news, because obviously when we comment on this news, it reaches to the government. They hear it and they can have a change of mind and listen to the cries of Nigerians. Just in case you haven't subscribed to us, please do press the subscribe button down below and also the notification bell just by the side of the subscribe button, and do well to press the ring part of it so you can be updated as soon as we upload this news. Thank you very much, my people. Until I come your way again, you take care and God bless. Bye.